Anguilla. Published November the 22nd, 2017. Special characters are denoted as follows. And. Left and right parentheses. A bullet point. An M dash. Anguilla is a British overseas territory in the Caribbean. It is one of the most northerly of the Leeward Islands in the Lesser Antilles, lying east of Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands and directly north of St. Martin. The territory consists of the main island of Anguilla, approximately 16 miles, 26 kilometers, long by 3 miles, 5 kilometers, wide at its widest point, together with a number of much smaller islands and cays with no permanent population. The island's capital is the valley. The total land area of the territory is 35 square miles, 90 kilometers squared, with a population of approximately 14,764. 2016 estimate. Anguilla has become a popular tax haven, having no capital gains, estate, profit or other forms of direct taxation on either individuals or corporations. In April 2011, faced with a mounting deficit, it introduced a 3% interim stabilization levy, Anguilla's first form of income tax. On the 7th of September 2017, the Category 5 Hurricane Irma hit the island. As of the next day, 1 death had been reported. The island also sustained extensive damage to many buildings, including government ones, as well as its electricity infrastructure and water supply. The UK government summarised this as severe and in places critical damage. A few days later, Hurricane Jose largely bypassed Anguilla. Part 1. Name. The name Anguilla is an anglicised or Latinate form of earlier Spanish. In Spanish, Castilian, Anguilla, meaning ill, in reference to the island's shape. It is believed by most sources to have been named by Christopher Columbus. For similar reasons, it was also known as Snake or Snake Island. Part 2. History. Anguilla was first settled by indigenous Amerindian peoples who migrated from South America. The earliest Native American artifacts found on Anguilla have been dated to around 1300 BC. Remains of settlements date from AD 600. The Arawak name for the island seems to have been Miliuhana. The date of European colonization is uncertain. Some sources claim that Columbus sighted the island during his second voyage in 1493, while others state that the island's first European explorer was the French Huguenot nobleman and merchant mariner René Goulin de Laudonnière in 1564. Traditional accounts state that Anguilla was first colonized by English settlers from St. Kitts beginning in 1650. In this early colonial period, however, Anguilla sometimes served as a place of refuge, and recent scholarship focused on Anguilla has placed greater significance on other Europeans and Creoles migrating from St. Christopher, Barbados, Nevis and Antigua. The French temporarily took over the island in 1666 but returned it to English control under the terms of the Treaty of Breda the next year. A Major John Scott, who visited in September 1667, wrote of leaving the island in good condition, and noted that in July 1668, 200 or 300 people fled thither in time of war. It is likely that some of these early Europeans brought enslaved Africans with them. Historians confirm that African slaves lived in the region in the early 17th century. For example, Africans from Senegal lived in St. Christopher in 1626. By 1672 a slave depot existed on the island of Nevis, serving the Leeward Islands. While the time of African arrival in Anguilla is difficult to place precisely, archival evidence indicates a substantial African presence of at least 100 slaves by 1683. These seem to have come from Central Africa as well as West Africa. Attempts by the French to capture the island during the War of Austrian Succession. 1745. And the Napoleonic Wars. 1796. Ended in failure. During the early colonial period, Anguilla was administered by the British through Antigua. In 1825, it was placed under the administrative control of nearby St. Kitts. In 1967, Britain granted St. Kitts and Nevis full internal autonomy. Anguilla was also incorporated into the new unified dependency, named St. Christopher Nevis Anguilla, against the wishes of many Anguillians. This led to two Anguillian revolutions in 1967 and 1969 headed by Atlin Harrigan and Ronald Webster. The island briefly operated as the independent Republic of Anguilla. The goal of the revolution was not independence per se, but rather independence from St. Kitts and Nevis and a return to being a British colony. British authority was fully restored in July 1971. In 1980, Anguilla was finally allowed to secede from St. Kitts and Nevis and become a separate British Crown colony. Now a British overseas territory. Part 3. Governance. Part 3. Governance. Chapter 1. Political system. Anguilla is an internally self-governing overseas territory of the United Kingdom. Its politics take place in a framework of a parliamentary representative democratic dependency, whereby the chief minister is the head of government, and of a pluriform multi-party system. The United Nations Committee on Decolonization includes Anguilla on the United Nations list of non-self-governing territories. The territory's constitution is Anguilla Constitutional Order 1 April 1982. Amended 1990. Executive power is exercised by the government. Legislative power is vested in both the government and the House of Assembly. The judiciary is independent of the executive and the legislature. Part 3. Governance. Chapter 2. Defence. As a dependency of the UK is responsible for Anguilla's military defence, although there are no active garrisons or armed forces present. Anguilla has a small marine police force, comprising around 32 personnel, which operates one VT Halmatic M160 class 52 feet fast patrol boat. Part 4. Population. Part 4. Population. Chapter 1. Demographics. The majority of residents, 90.08%, are black, the descendants of slaves transported from Africa. Minorities include whites at 3.74% and people of mixed race at 4.65%. Figures from 2001 census. 72% of the population is Anguillian while 28% is non-Anguillian. 2001 census. Of the non-Anguillian population, many are citizens of the United States, United Kingdom, St. Kitts and Nevis, the Dominican Republic, Jamaica and Nigeria. 2006 and 2007 saw an influx of large numbers of Chinese, Indian and Mexican workers, brought in as labor for major tourist developments due to the local population not being large enough to support the labor requirements. Part 4. Population. Chapter 2. Religion. Christian churches did not have a consistent or strong presence during the initial period of English colonization. Spiritual and religious practices of Europeans and Africans tended to reflect their regional origins. As early as 1813, Christian ministers formally ministered to enslaved Africans and promoted literacy among converts. The Wesleyan, Methodist, Missionary Society of England built churches and schools in 1817. According to the 2001 census, Christianity is Anguilla's predominant religion, with 29% of the population practicing Anglicanism. Another 23.9% are Methodist. Other churches on the island include Seventh-day Adventist, Baptist, Roman Catholic. Served by the Roman Catholic Diocese of St. John's, Bassa-y-Terre, with see at St. John on Antigua and Barbuda. And a community of Jehovah's Witnesses. 0.7%. Between 1992 and 2001, the number of followers of the Church of God and Pentecostals increased considerably. There are at least 15 churches on the island. Although a minority on the island, it is an important location to followers of Rastafarian religion. Anguilla is the birthplace of Robert Atherley Rogers, author of the Holy Bible, which has had a strong influence on Rastafarian beliefs. Various other religions are practiced as well. More recently, a Muslim cultural center has opened on the island. Element or table removed. Unsuitable for speech. Part 4, Population. Chapter 3, Languages. Today most people in Anguilla speak a British-influenced variety of Standard English. Other languages are also spoken on the island, including varieties of Spanish, Chinese and the languages of other immigrants. However, the most common language other than Standard English is the island's own English Lexicon Creole language. Not to be confused with Antillean Creole. French Creole. Spoken in French islands such as Martinique and Guadeloupe. It is referred to locally by terms such as dialect, pronounced dialect, Anguilla talk or Anguillian. It has its main roots in early varieties of English and West African languages, and is similar to the dialect spoken in English-speaking islands throughout the Eastern Caribbean, in terms of its structural features and to the extent of being considered one single language. Linguists who are interested in the origins of Anguillian and other Caribbean Creoles point out that some of its grammatical features can be traced to African languages while others can be traced to European languages. 3 areas have been identified as significant for the identification of the linguistic origins of those forced migrants who arrived before 1710, the Gold Coast, the Slave Coast and the Windward Coast. Socio-historical information from Anguillas archives suggest that Africans and Europeans formed 2 distinct, but perhaps overlapping speech communities in the early phases of the island's colonization. Anguillian is believed to have emerged as the language of the masses as time passed, slavery was abolished and locals began to see themselves as belonging to Anguillian society. Part 5, Culture. The Anguilla National Trust, ANT, was established in 1988 and opened its offices in 1993, charged with the responsibility of preserving the heritage of the island, including its cultural heritage. The Trust has programs encouraging Anguillian writers and the preservation of the island's history. In 2015, Where I See the Sun, Contemporary Poetry in Anguilla, a new anthology by Lassana M. Sekou was published by House of Nehesi Publishers. Among the 43 poets in the unprecedented collection are Rita Celestine Carty, Banky Banks, John T. Harrigan, Patricia J. Adams, Fabian Fahey, Dr. Oluwakemi Linda Banks, and Raoul Ben Louis. The island's cultural history begins with the Taino Native Americans. Artifacts have been found around the island, telling of life before European settlers arrived by the Arawak and Carib peoples. As throughout the Caribbean, holidays are a cultural fixture. Anguilla's most important holidays are of historic as much as cultural importance, particularly the anniversary of the Emancipation. Previously August Monday in the Park. Celebrated as the Summer Festival. British festivities, such as the Queen's birthday, are also celebrated. Part 5, Culture. Chapter 1, Cuisine. Anguillian cuisine is influenced by native Caribbean, African, Spanish, French and English cuisines. Seafood is abundant, including prawns, shrimp, crab, spiny lobster, conch, Mahi-mahi, red snapper, marlin and grouper. Salt cod is a staple food eaten on its own and used in stews, casseroles and soups. Livestock is limited due to the small size of the island and people that use poultry, pork, goat and mutton, along with imported beef. Goat is the most commonly eaten meat, used in a variety of dishes. A significant amount of the island's produce is imported due to limited land suitable for agriculture production. Much of the soil is sandy and infertile. Among the agriculture produced in Anguilla includes tomatoes, peppers, limes and other citrus fruits, onion, garlic, squash, pigeon peas and callaloo. Starch staple foods include imported rice and other foods that are imported or locally grown, including yams, sweet potatoes and breadfruit. Due to its internationally recognized culinary community, the island has enjoyed a reputation as the culinary capital of the Caribbean. This reputation was reinforced with the publication of the W.E. R. Anguilla Cookbook, a guide to the cuisine of Anguilla featuring emerging and established local chefs, who share both their signature dishes and personal anecdotes regarding the island's Epicurean culture. A publishing contract was secured by the Brito Agency, which had conceived the idea for the book itself. Part 5, Culture. Chapter 2, Music. The island's burgeoning musical community made history with the recording of Sounds of Anguilla. Volume 1. The first album ever composed solely of artists from a single Caribbean island representing multiple musical genres, pop, reggae, hip-hop, soca music and R&B. The album, featuring Anguillian musicians such as Banky Banks, Amalia Wati, True Intentions and Gazwin Lake and The Parables, was released on iTunes in June 2015. Part 5, Culture. Chapter 3, Education. A branch of the St. James School of Medicine was established in 2011 in Anguilla. It is a private, for-profit medical school headquartered in Park Ridge, Illinois. The school's mission is to help motivated students become doctors, irrespective of ethnic, religious and cultural backgrounds. The school was founded on the belief that a high-quality medical education should be affordable and accessible to everyone with the commitment and the ability to succeed in a career in medicine. Part 5, Culture. Chapter 4, Sports. Boat racing has deep roots in Anguillian culture and is the national sport. There are regular sailing regattas on national holidays, such as Carnival, which are contested by locally built and designed boats. These boats have names and have sponsors that print their logo on their sails. As in many other former British colonies, cricket is also a popular sport. Anguilla is the home of Omari Banks, who played for the West Indies cricket team, while Cardigan Connor played first-class cricket for English county side Hampshire and was Shefty Mission team manager for Anguilla's Commonwealth Games team in 2002. Rugby union is represented in Anguilla by the Anguilla Eels RFC, who were formed in April 2006. The Eels have been finalists in the St. Martin tournament in November 2006 and semi-finalists in 2007. 2008, 2009 and champions in 2010. The Eels were formed in 2006 by Scottish club national second row Martin Welsh, club sponsor and president of the ERFC Ms. Jackie Ruan, and Canadian standouts Crumhave Mark Harris. Toronto Scottish RFC. Anguilla is also the birthplace of sprinter Janelle Hughes, who has represented Great Britain since 2015. He specializes in the 100m and 200m sprints. He won the 100m in the 2013 CRIFTA Games with a time of 10.44 seconds, despite his time being some way below his personal best. He currently holds the ISS/Great Czech Entity Boys and Girls Athletics Championships record for the 100m, with a time of 10.12 seconds, having taken the record from Johan Blake. 56 on the 13th of March 2015. Hughes made his Diamond League debut where he was commended for almost beating world champion Usain Bolt. 7 On the 24th of July 2015, Hughes won the 200m at the London Diamond League meet to take the lead in the Diamond League standings for the season. 8 On the 27th of August 2015, Hughes came 5th in the 200m at the World Championships in Beijing with a time of 20.02 seconds. Shara Proctor, British long jump silver medalist in World Championships in Beijing, first represented Anguilla in the event until 2010 when she began to represent the UK. Under the Anguillian flag she achieved several medals in the NSCSC Games. Keith Connor, triple jumper, is also an Anguillian. He represented Great Britain and achieved several international titles including Commonwealth and European Games gold medals and an Olympic bronze medal. Keith later became head coach of Australia Athletics. Chesney Hughes is a West Indian cricketer who plays for Derbyshire. He was born in Anguilla. Having signed